I don't think you necessarily know what the audience is going to respond to, but I also don't think you need to. I think you should just be out there writing for yourself.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special event hosted by ScreenCraft. We're thrilled to be joined by our guests, Dave and John Chernin. As many of you know, Dave and John are the dynamic writing duo behind some of television's most memorable comedy moments, including their work on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and their own creation, The Mick. With their extensive experience in the writer's room and their recent transition to feature screenwriting with their new film Incoming, Dave and John bring a wealth of knowledge and inspiration to aspiring writers looking to make their mark in Hollywood. If you're a TV writer, be sure to check out our ScreenCraft TV pilot competition. Finalists and winners get access to the ScreenCraft Writer Development Team, along with industry recognition. This program is open now and accepting submissions until September 30th. Without further ado, let's dive in. Dave and John, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. Quite an intro.
Wow. Yeah.
We try over here.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to screen Incoming early. Hilarious film. Enjoyed myself, as did everybody else in the room. Really funny, and it brought me back to my high school experience. But before we talk about that, I'd love to kind of touch on the early parts of your career. So I think I was reading that prior to working on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, John worked with the Farley brothers and then with Ridley Scott's commercial production company, and Dave was a writer's assistant for Rob McElhenney. What initially attracted you both to writing, and what were the early steps you took after school?
I think what additionally attracted me is I think I always liked just doing something creative, and the idea of storytelling was always very fun to me. And I think the two of us have spent literally our entire lives just trying to make one another laugh. So the notion that we can do this professionally and make a living is something we're pretty grateful for.
Yeah, I think just honestly, we were such fans of all kinds of TV and movies, but comedy especially. So yeah, I think that was the initial attraction. We like to dick around, and this way we could get paid to do it.
I also think, as much as I've always been interested in this, it wasn't until wrapping up senior year of college that it's like, oh my God, I need to find a job, and not just a job, but that will last summer, but a career. And, I think I was very fortunate to be in a position where it's like, oh, I think I might be able to do what I love for a living. And so once I honed in on that, it was just like, all right, I want to gain as much experience and try to do whatever I can to stay in that lane.
And you're both individuals, but now you have a bit of a brother's brand.
Sure.
So I'm curious, were you always a writing duo, or how did that come to be? And how do you divide the labor between the two?
I mean, I think when we were younger, in our early 20s, we were both writing a little bit separately. But when we were I was probably 21, 22, John was 23. We lived in a house together, and we figured we should take a shot at one of these things together. And then we were fortunate enough to just hook up with the Sunny guys, and we became a professional team then. And now legally we are bound together forever.
Of course, by blood.
I think we're 15 or so years into doing this professionally as a team, and we literally 2 days ago for the first time just got separate offices on a job. So right now we're in my office, but usually we would spend every year with our desks pushed together facing each other, sharing a room. So this is a big step for us.
And then you go from being a staff writer on Always Sunny to creating your own show, The Mick. I can remember one of my first experiences in Hollywood was working at the bungalow for the Fox feature animation production team. And so one day I'm out there in our front lawn. It's being turned into a set deck for The Mick. And suddenly I'm seeing it turned into a backyard of someone's house. And I'm just curious, what was it like transitioning from being a staff writer into show running your own thing, taking on that responsibility, nitty gritty style?
It was great. I think we were so fortunate to come up in the Always Sunny camp. And those guys kind of really proved to us that you could do the job. They were so young when they started that show. And there was a lot between Sunny and the Mick. We had some failed pilots in there, so we really did grow through the Always Sunny system. And then we had a couple strikeouts on our own, and when the MIC happened, I think it was just we were ready for it. You know, we had the right amount of experience, the right amount of failure, and we had learned a lot of tricks along the way. So by the time the MIC hit, I think we were at an age and experience level that we were really ready to take that next step.
And then to go from running your own show, you obviously have a successful track record in television, to doing screenwriting for features and making your own movies, something that you're putting your stamp on. This is a representation of all of your efforts, right? What was that transition like?
It's interesting because I think growing up, like we were most interested in films, and then, we started working in TV, one, just because of the opportunity, but also TV was it was just entering the golden age of television at that time. So
Mhm.
very fun, but movies were what initially appealed most to us. And then I think, show running was such good training for how to be a director. And it was funny because like when we were doing the movie and people would ask on set, like, so how does this compare to show running? We would just be like, this is so much easier. Like
Really?
it's not that it's easier because they're both really hard, but show running is just such an all-consuming thing where you're trying to write and edit and shoot and break new stories like all at once. And so just being able to remove some of those elements from the mass of things crushing you at all times,
Hmm.
it was a
Hmm.
real load off.
But I think also creative control was a big thing for us. You know, in television, the writer has a lot of power.
Hmm.
So, when we were show running, it all kind of ended with us. At the end of the day, we decided what the show was going to be. And then we just knew that the director has all the power in features. So, we were learning on the fly for sure. I think we try to challenge ourselves to level up whenever we can.
Hmm.
Uh, but we also, as even though we didn't have a ton of experience directing, I think we believed that we were the best people to tell this story that we wrote. So we weren't dying to leave it in the hands of someone else who we didn't trust. We figured we'd
Sure.
rather strike out on our own.
And in a perfect world, would you just stick to writing? Or if you could ensure that your idea would come to fruition exactly how you want it to be, what would you be doing in that process?
I think we like directing. Like it was
Yeah.
really fun, and I think there's still a lot of room for us to grow in that department. We just like storytelling, and
Hmm.
yeah, like look, I think we're more confident at writers at this point in our career, but
Sure.
we both love directing. We learned a ton, and we think we can get a lot better. So we're really excited to get back in the director's chair.
Most of all, we crave power. And we're just trying to amass as much power as possible. So
Well, there can only be one. So at some point, I feel like there might be some division here,
we'll get to that place. And we're
Yeah.
just trying to amass as much as possible.
Sure. I saw in an interview that you guys did a few years back about the Mick, and you spoke about how you wanted to differentiate it from Always Sunny and make it a standalone product. And in this film, Incoming, you've used some of those same actors that you've worked with in the past. And I'm just curious, how much are you conscious of, okay, we are trying to make this different. We don't want people to inadvertently bring them together versus just doing what you purely feel like is the best service of the material with the actors that you like to work with. How much are you thinking about that?
Well, look, if anyone wants to compare us to Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that's fine with us. Like that's a nice thing to be compared to.
Hmm.
Like bringing some of those same actors over to this movie, like we just adore those people, and it's you never know how many opportunities you're going to get in this business where schedules are going to align, where the
Hmm.
material speaks to people. Caitlin Olsen, first and foremost, is such a monster talent that you'd be insane not to do everything you can to work with her, so we begged her to be in this movie. And
Hmm.
then Tommy Barbuska and Scott MacArthur are also so talented. They're such good guys, and we just love any chance we have to work with people who are really good friends of ours.
Yeah, I think it's also important to set ourselves up for success, and we know those people. We have a shorthand with them. We know how great they are, and we know that they were going to bring it and make us look good. So, we hope to work with them again and again, and even some of the other actors who are in the MIC who, you know, we didn't have the right roles for them in this, but we're dying to get back to work with Sophia and Carla and Jack and all the Mick people. We're just an inspiring bunch to be around, so we would love to write for them.
And man, even beyond those characters, you did such a great job with casting. The kid characters are fantastic. They can carry a movie. All of the lines that they delivered seemed organic to them. It didn't feel forced or overperformative. So hats off to the casting director or whatever he did to find them. I'm curious, how did you go about developing that chemistry amongst the leads? And was it a matter of they delivered exactly what you had on paper, or did you see their performance and then kind of navigate around what was organic to them?
I was going to say it was really important for us to cast minors in those roles because it's just a pet peeve of ours when you're watching a high school movie and you're like, well, that guy looks 23 years old. I think with this particular story, like the stakes feel so much bigger because these really do feel like kids.
Mhm.
We shot this movie during COVID, so a lot of the casting was done over Zoom. We didn't have a lot of time to get these boys together and let them organically become friends. I think we were very fortunate that they did become fast friends making this movie.
Wow.
And we also just got really lucky. We were doing chem reads over Zoom. And the first time we did Ramon and Rafa together, the guys who play Eddie and Connor, like the moment that Zoom opened, they just recognized each other. They're like, Ramon, Rafa, like those guys were already pals in real life. And so their
Yeah.
chemistry shines through in such a unique way, I think.
Yeah, I also think just coming from TV, we really understand the importance of cast chemistry. You know, Sonny being the ultimate example of like when the audience can feel that the characters really like each other and are having fun with each other, it really does translate and up the comedy.
Mhm.
So yeah, like John said, we got kind of lucky with these, although we were certainly looking out for it as best we could in a Zoom audition. But you know, you're trying to cast not only great actors, but people who you want to spend 12 hours a day with.
That's
And
right.
all these kids, like, aside from their talent, were so nice. They were good kids that had good parents. So we did as much as we possibly could to make sure that we were set up for success in that department. And then as far as like their performance goes, I think look, we had a script that we were really confident in. So John and I had a clear idea of who these characters were going in, but the moment you hire an actor, you start to share that character with that person. So each of
Mhm.
these kids put their own spin on the character. They brought more than what was on the page to the role, and like we just got lucky. They were all so great and so talented, and willing to kind of work with us and find it on a really tight schedule.
The young actors were definitely fantastic, but you also had great performances from the adult characters. And I think back to other teen comedies like American Pie with Eugene Levy still in the show a bit,
Right.
or Super Bad, the scene with the cops. It feels like there is attention given to the adult characters. So you did it with great success. They were hilarious. Can you kind of break us down with your intention with those characters?
I think when we write, we usually go back through the script after everything's done and we just try to do a pass for every character, almost as if it's their story, as if they're the lead of this. And so
Mhm.
you never really want someone to just be there to exist as window dressing or just to lob up softballs for another character. But then I think again, it's a testament to all those performers just come in and nail it. Like, Scott MacArthur can just come in and blow everyone's mind with just a few lines. Tommy Barbuska, I think, steals every scene he's in this movie.
Man, since Geico, that kid's on
I
fire.
know.
Yeah.
Which is funny. That's how we found him from the Mick, from that Geico commercial. Like before we even opened the casting process, we're just like, that is our kid. And we
Yeah.
prayed to God he brought it in the audition, which he did. But Caitlin and Scott in particular in this movie, they made those roles so much more than what they were on the page. You know, they were
Mhm.
kind of background roles when we wrote the script. And they came in with their own ideas, and they're both such forces of nature comedically.
Yeah.
I think they were like two of the first scenes we shot in this movie.
Yeah.
And they just set the tone for the whole production. Like Scott had like a line in the script and end up making an entire scene out of that character. That was so funny.
Hmm.
Um, and then Bobby Cannavale, we did not know him, but we're huge fans of his, both comedically, dramatically. That's just a guy that can do it all. But an actor of his stature, you don't really know what you're gonna get until he shows up on day one. And like he could just not have been cooler. He totally understood that character, and that he was walking a fine line there between that guy, and he really got it. And like that guy just oozes charisma in a
Hmm.
way that I don't think you're ever worried about him coming off as unlikable, despite some of his questionable decisions in the movie.
That's right. I think you guys really succeeded in having the only party scene with the teacher present that wasn't creepy. It was just like totally funny or a little bit sad for him.
Yeah.
But you nailed
Yeah,
that.
it was weird. We never saw the characters being creepy, but
Yes.
everyone who read the script was like, "Oh, how are you going to pull this off?" So we kind of knew going in that it was a tricky balance, but Bobby just got it. Like there's nothing about that guy. He really understood that. He's like, "No, I'm here because I believe that I can help these children, and they're better off with me at the
Absolutely. He
party."
believes that.
And yeah, bingo, man. So he was awesome.
And then one more question just about the story points. So you set up this scenario where it's four freshman teenagers that are trying to navigate their first high school party. But early on in the film, they kind of pair off and they each follow their own journeys, and we're going back and forth between the two. What was the discussion around how much this four should interact before we get to the split? Do we have to reinforce that they're a group of friends? Because I felt that, but I'm just curious, how did you find that balance of what to show and what was unnecessary?
Do you remember? I don't think.
I think, look, that's something that we do a lot in television is have the juxtaposition of points of view and kind
Mhm.
of have them crisscross. So, the two guys that are invited to the party and have this opportunity to be cool and popular, they both kind of step in shit by the end and learn a lesson. And meanwhile, these two outcasts who are not allowed to go, who are kind of put upon at the beginning of the movie, they end up really growing into themselves by the end. So we love that juxtaposition that kind of crisscrosses halfway through the film. But yeah, that's a TV trick that I think we probably picked up from Always Sunny, where you have two factions of characters on opposite sides of any issue. And it just keeps the story fresh. We can always jump over to the other one when we feel like we're running out of gas in one. But yeah.
Yeah, I think what I like about those stories too is like the two boys who don't get to go to the party feel like now their lives are ruined. Like after
Mhm.
the character gives them this big speech about like this isn't a party, this is our future. And then suddenly these two boys are told like, well, you don't get to come. And it's like, and the fact that they don't get to go, but they come out looking the best at the end of the movie, even though they go through the most nightmarish scenario, I think that's just very satisfying.
Yeah. And just to say, man, that the Donna character, Kush Jr., as I refer to him lovingly, I feel like him and Dennis at some point in life would have been buddies, you know?
God, yeah, you're probably right, but that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And at ScreenCraft, we're really about supporting the writers in their journeys, and we're doing interviews like this to kind of encourage them that they're not any different from other successful writers such as yourself. It's all about putting in the effort and figuring it out. But I'm curious, do you have any advice specifically for TV writers who are looking to make the leap to features?
I think the great thing about writing is you have so much control over it. I don't think you necessarily know what the audience is going to respond to, but I also don't think you need to. I think you should just be out there writing for yourself and also working on your craft to get better. Like, no matter what is going on, like there's a million movies, there's a million TV shows that you can be watching, you can be devouring scripts, you can be writing scripts. And so I think there are so many different ways to succeed in this business or to level up, but so much of them rely on opportunity and luck and all these things. But as a writer, you are in control of your destiny in terms of I can always get better at my craft. And so that's what I always encourage people to do is like just focus on getting better and you will get an opportunity and hopefully you're in a place where you can cash in on it.
Yeah, I'd more or less say the same thing. Read as much as you can. You can get almost any script on the internet now, and just start checking out people's styles, their structures. Feel free to borrow little tricks that you pick up from other people until you develop your own style. And it really is a muscle. I mean, we're pushing almost 20 years into our career, and I still feel like every script we write is better than the one before. So I think just keep at it, man. And like John said, an opportunity will come and you just got to be ready for it.
And just to ask, are you regimented with how much you write? Do you have hours during the day where it feels like, okay, I'm setting this aside to write, whether it's good or bad, just to churn ideas out to get to the ones I like? Or is it free flowing when you feel like writing, when the inspiration hits, that's when you write?
But we don't abide by any of that advice that we just gave. No, look, are we regimented? I think we try to work almost every day, even whether we're on a show or not. We're together, we're kicking something around. Some days are definitely more productive than others, but yeah, we're at our best when we're doing it often.
I do think we're regimented in the success of like we plan on getting together every day that we're not on a show, starting at like noon, which may not seem like the most ambitious start time, but I do think we've zeroed in on like from noon to dinner time, like we are writing and we are very protective of those hours. Like if a friend wants to meet us for lunch Monday through Friday, or one of us tries to like set a doctor's appointment in the afternoon, we're usually just like, no, that's writing time. And like Dave says, it's not always the most fruitful or productive, but we do go into Monday through Friday, like the afternoon and early evening is for writing.
And by the way, when we take time off for too long, it's that much harder when we sit down to actually write something. So like when we were show running, I mean, we were miserable, but we could churn out scripts at a wild pace. And it's just because we kept that muscle strong during that period. And then, we'll take a couple months off to catch our breath, and it feels like you go all the way back to square one. So yeah, just keep at it, I would say.
You lose the muscle if you don't use it.
Totally.
Yes, which is very frustrating, but that applies to life too, which is also frustrating.
Absolutely. And our final question here, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the conversation. With your wealth of experience and knowledge, do you have any other advice that you'd like to give to emerging screenwriters who are looking to succeed in the industry? Beyond just the, advice to keep working and consistently write, what are some practical things that you can do with your writing, I suppose?
Make something yourself, produce something yourself. I think the technology being what it is these days, you're not always going to have an opportunity to work on a studio funded show, but you always have the ability nowadays to get your phone out, get a camera, whatever it is, and make something. And I can't stress how much you learn doing that, whether it's good or bad. Throughout that process, you really do learn what does and doesn't work. So I would encourage everybody to get out and make something, a short film, a music video, whatever you can.
Yeah, I also think just surround yourself with people you want to work with. You'll make each other better and it's fun. I think Dave and we learned a lot during Always Sunny because we were surrounded by such incredibly talented people who then became friends of ours, and we would pass, writing back and forth and say, hey, can you take a look at this? And I it's, writing can be a lonely pursuit. So I think anything you can do to make it a little more social and a little more enjoyable will go a long.
Yeah, you guys said something earlier that was powerful where, yeah, we spend so much time, so many hours working on this, perhaps more than we spend with our families. We want to like the people we work with. And then you're going to keep elevating each other to continue working with each other in the future. So I think that's a great tidbit. And thank you so much for your time again, Dave and John, for sharing these insights. to the ScreenCraft audience. And for all those that are watching, remember to check out Incoming on Netflix and visit screencraft.org for more screenwriting inspiration and guidance. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Mel.
having us.
Appreciate it. That was fun.